This is Christine A. Smith, founder of the Pre-Act Your Age Journal and host of the Aging Better Network, a website of resources for actively retired individuals. My guest on this podcast will introduce their own product or service in just a few minutes. It's 2022 and I just started using my new independent planner. I want to thank Independent Planner for making this podcast possible. The Independent Planner has been designed by an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs. Order your independent planner at independent-planner.com. Hello, Blessing.
Hello, how are you doing, Christine?
Great. We have so much sunshine right now, and I'm on the south side that my producer ran outside and hung up a black sheet so that your face and my face will have some similarity instead of me looking like my husband says in the witness protection program. Do not recognize me.
Well, it's a great day in sunny Florida today. So,
oh, wonderful. Of course. Of course. Our daughter and her brand new husband were there just a few months ago for their honeymoon.
Ooh, good place
Yes, 2 weeks. And of course, oh, a joy going to see all the sights and spent a week at Daytona Beach. So as well as all the big stuff, you know.
Spent a college spring break there once.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that is another podcast.
Yeah, we won't talk about those stories. Talk about pre-act your age.
That is a waste. A lot of entertaining things to start out. Hey, Nancy, you already have this in mind because I gave you some of these prompts ahead of time. Tell me about something you have done right for someone challenged by aging.
Oh dear, there's so many different things that I think I did okay, but the one thing I did absolutely right was when my mom and dad had moved into a care facility, and they wanted to do that on their desire to not be a burden to my sister and myself, and I greatly appreciated that heart and that energy that went into that. But at the time, it worked out okay in the beginning, and then mom started to have some issues, and they went from I just found the old contract. It was $30,575 a month, which was basically independent living, a room, 3 meals a day, light housekeeping, which meant they changed the sheets once a week and came in with a Swiffer, which is typical. But then mom started to have some issues and the bill started to escalate. It was an extra $600 to add 1 pill a day that she made sure she got, then $700 just to walk the pill down. If she didn't want to eat, it would be $6 to walk the meal that we've already paid for to go down the hall to make sure she would eat, which she didn't eat. And then all of a sudden a fall, some cracked ribs, 8 stitches in the head, and a bill for $30,000 a month for round-the-clock care in their room. And being put in the position, thankfully it was me, to be their POA, financial, medical, legal directive. I looked at their expenses and said, Dad, SOL, this is, thankfully Dad was not cognitively impaired like my mom. And we sat down and, as they say, it had a come to Jesus meeting together. I flew down and discussed it, and he panicked, World War II vet and, end of Depression era baby. And he said, can we leave today? And I said, absolutely not. But I wanted to have this discussion with you. So it was not my decision. It was your decision to do. And I had some ideas of what to do and where to go. And I said, do you want to be part of this, finding a new place and deciding what to do? And he said, absolutely. So I think I did that pretty darn well. And as time went on, my dad would say, "We'd be SOL without you," and I would just laugh and say, "Darn right, Dad," and thumbs up, kind of thing. So I think that was a pretty good deal. And the story went on from there, but that was one defining moment that was a big one, the first major one among others.
If that caught our audience by surprise, POA. It's one of
Um,
those things you
Power of
don't need
attorney,
to
yeah,
know. Yeah, you
yeah.
don't need to know about it until you need to know about it. So power of attorney and
Well, and we should all know about
yeah,
that even
right.
beforehand so that you know what the terms that you will be getting somebody to help you with at some point. Yeah.
Exactly. Get to a source of information and just be aware of it and then dig deeper as you are in that situation, especially with someone that you love and for yourself. I was also thinking about if you could describe your feelings when you faced an aging crisis for which you were definitely unprepared.
Oh, it's funny. I just recorded a podcast with a CEO and who was dealing with a medical crisis in the past with a son. And his comments were exactly how I behaved when major and crisis happens, especially when you're taking care of somebody. Um, I tend to, I lose all emotion and I go in, like a dog for a bone. Focus, what do I need to do? What's the information I need? What are the decisions I need to make? What's the time frame that I need to do it? And what happens if scenario. So and my joke is, especially when caring for my parents, it was I was mad as hell and wasn't going to take it anymore when disaster hit. and and people had to answer to me. Not that I was being a jerk about it, but I was very direct and sometimes put off certain individuals that were in the medical profession. And I just said, listen, don't take it personally. I need to know this information to make the right decision at the right time for two people who have raised me and that I care about.
Some people call it angry, and there's another A word, advocate.
Yeah, I'm very focused. Yeah, and the other word is, AS.
And being aggressive and it is for the sake of another life.
Yes.
And they made a choice, or a choice was made to hand over power of attorney. And you're like, okay, what would I do if it was me and I was fighting for life, fighting for continued life, or a way of life, a continued way of life. So
And it wasn't even what I would do. It was in this particular case with my parents over the course of growing up, we had these discussions. It was not every day, obviously, but it was part of our life of what if this would happen? What were their wishes? And I always knew exactly what we would never know what the end of life is going to look like for anybody. But I knew what their wishes were, to either fight or say enough is enough. And so that helped immensely as in the position I was in.
it gave you certainty. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I know where the lines are for us in our relationship and for their wishes and all of that.
Didn't
It's
make it
your turn.
necessarily any easier. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's your turn. You get to ask me a question that I have no clue ahead of time. And I'm unprepared for this. I asked you about how you felt when you were unprepared. So turnabout, fair play, go for it.
So this is one that was posed to me once in a different situation. But my question to you is what's the one big hairy gorilla thing that scares the living daylights out of you as you start to age yourself?
I knew you'd be good at this. Oh my goodness. I can't wait for our audience to get to know you better.
I'm a stinker.
I need to think of a really good answer. So, we're just gonna right now go to a break. The Pre-Act Your Age Journal guides you to pre-plan for the emotional and relational impacts of growing older. Practice navigating one aspect of aging at a time with Pre-Act Your Age. While your mind is clear, your emotions are calm, and your relationships are deep. Oh, Nancy, I was just thinking about what I just said, that I have to come up with a really good answer. I think what I mean to say, being an educator, is that I feel a responsibility to come up with an answer that will be helpful to our listening audience. And one is starting to come into my mind. And I think it's one that will resonate with you as well. And as I always say throughout any day, but first, before I answer that question and before our audience gets to know you a lot better, I am putting you through the lightning round. Now, the only thing you know is that you are giving answers to scenarios, and the answers could be a professional, a relative, an acquaintance, some person. It could be something like a document, an organization, oh goodness, a website, someone you've designated that isn't part of your inner circle, maybe a more neutral person. So those are the types of answers that you can give. You can be as general or as personal as you choose to be. All your answers are right, by the way. Whatever answer you give is true in this moment.
It's like Blake
And
Wobegon, right?
oh, see, now people are starting to think about, riding in the car and thinking, it was
Where the
it
women
was a
are all
quiet
strong and the
week.
men are all good looking and the children are above average.
Oh, we've got those. Yes, it was a quiet week in Lake Wobegon. My husband producer would say that as soon as he had the first line, he knew what else he was going to say. So when I thought of "Hello, Blessing" as my first line, you were definitely top of the list, and we finally got to get together. So the lightning round, this is what it's about. I'm going to give you, Nancy, scenarios, and in those scenarios, it's about you. And in that situation, you are either unavailable or unable to make a decision for yourself. So you're going to choose a person or something a little more, whatever, impersonal, like a website or something to do the answering for you. And it could be a document too that you've actually filled out. So you get to choose through numbers 1 through 17. Choose any number.
I'm going to choose perfect number 10.
All right. I wonder what that one is. People around you go on talking normally, and you want to add to the conversation, but your mind and your mouth seem to be disconnecting. Even though you are still conscious and your hands can move, you're not able to form words. Who or what will you write on a napkin so that when they become aware that something is wrong, and if you do lose consciousness, you will be well represented when the ambulance arrives?
Ooh, good question. Does it have to be somebody who's there with me at the time? Obviously, I would think it would be, right?
Your choice.
Well, if it was somebody was there with me, I would select the person who was not doing the most talking, probably the person who's doing the most listening, and write on a napkin, "Help me now." just to get their attention and just like right in their face, go for it. And if they didn't, if they didn't respond, there's sharp elbows. I'd probably jab an elbow to get their attention and hope for the best. But if it was somebody that I needed help from outside of the group that wasn't there, I would probably, and my husband wasn't around, I would probably call one of my dearest friends who has been there for me in emotionally in many different ways and just good sound. She's been an old soul right from since we've known each other since kindergarten. And my friend Diane, I would call my friend Diane, say, just step in and provide the sound judgment that needs to be done.
So you're writing down Diane 999-999. Get those numbers on there.
I would, of course,
on
I would
that
probably say,
napkin.
help me, call 911, And by the way, my book, How to Survive 911 Medical Emergency. Quick, do you know how to speed read?
We're going to hear more about that in just a moment. Hey, you get to choose another number because you did it right. You get to
Okay.
choose another number.
1 through 17, you said?
Mhm.
So let's go to the end of the list. Let's go to 17.
All righty. I'm just making sure because I crossed off some of these. Okay. Since you know that you will be home, but on heavy pain relievers for a day or two, who or what will make minor decisions about your pets and your property and your mail during those days?
Oh, that would be my husband. So, he's there. He would be the one that would collect and do all the stuff. And I've been in that situation before after a bad car accident, and he stepped in and did the work that needed to be done when I kind of sat there like a lump, sleeping and healing a lot.
I appreciate you saying that because in the audience, there will be people going, who would that be? Because it's one thing to have someone come in and take care of everything when you're gone on vacation. They can call you, check on things. But if I don't have somebody living in my situation or
Mhm.
familiar, who do I want coming in while I'm sitting there like a lump, and taking care of all these things around me? And it really gets people thinking, who would I call upon to do that? And I know that I wouldn't be a burden to them or they would already know this stuff, so you're really
You would
getting
be,
people
yeah, I'm
thinking.
gonna just interrupt a second because I think you'd
Yeah.
be really surprised as to the types of people who will come forward to help you. We work so hard to try and not be a burden to people around us that we know and love and care for, but it's the kindness of strangers that will come out of the woodwork. And quite frankly, I think most people would be surprised, but pleasantly surprised that there are a few good souls out there that you
Yeah.
like I had a car accident 30 years ago, and there were people who dropped meals off at my office, and my husband would pick up at the end of the night coming back from the train station. To this day, I don't know who those people are.
I love that. I
Mhm.
am so glad that you brought that up. It just, let some people be the angels for a while. So,
As long as they know that you need help, as the world knows that you need help, or certain select groups, and that's the importance of having a network.
yes, and communicate to them.
Don't isolate
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, would you like to do one more? Your choice.
Sure, 3.
An adult who has understood your wishes and has been your go-to in difficulty is now in a relationship with someone who discourages your close connection to each other. And, well, personally, they don't really want anything to do with you.
That's a tough one.
Who?
Wow.
Okay, so here's the twist. Who or what do you choose to keep your long term bond by reasoning with their significant other?
Oh, I would probably do it directly myself. Don't go through I wouldn't go through somebody else because 'cause you'd never know how the message is being delivered, and I would
Mm.
probably sit down with that individual, try not to be confrontational because I know I can be a pretty strong-willed person, and just try to have an open and honest discussion and say, "Okay, Joe or Sally, I understand that you may not like me, but this is a long-standing relationship, and I think the world of your spouse or your significant other, whoever that is, and I just want you to know how much I love and care for them. And if there's something that's getting at you or in your way to block that, please let me know what it is, and I will try my best um, to adjust, because if you care enough about that person to make sure that they're happy, then that's good enough for me."
Wow. Are you sure you don't wanna do it just an advice column or a show or something like that? If you were truly unable to do that, there might be someone that you're going, "That person would represent me well, but I think they might be able to appear neutral," or something. I
You
don't
know,
know.
I hate to say it, no, I don't think anybody could do that. I don't know, there are some great I mean, I had some wonderful people in my life, but we all come to a position with our own quirks, and baggage is not the right word, but they're our own
Mm,
styles, and
yeah.
if you wanna have a message delivered and trying to remove an obstacle, as hard as it may be at times, the best way to address it, my personal belief is to try and address it head on, and, I there have been those tough decisions, those conversations have taken me weeks to have, and just working them out in my head. How do I deliver the bad news? What do I say? How is this gonna soften? And, um how do I still be kind, but get the message across
Mhm.
that I want this to happen in a way that's gonna be good for both of us? And
Ugh,
it may not work. I mean, ultimately, you just have to resign yourself to the fact that, some people will just never agree with you, and that's okay
mhm.
too. Um, some people are just meant to be jerks.
And you can say, "Well, their loss, but I grieve the loss of that relationship." And maybe you can make sure that if there's a fire on the bridge, go ahead and put that fire out
Try to
so
put it
that
out.
your bridge isn't burnt because situations can change and they can change again.
And they may need that person who doesn't like you may need you. And you have to find, they'll find what an awesome person you are in the end.
There you go. There you go. Oh my goodness. Well, cutting down a podcast that could go on and on and on. I'm just gonna go to the finale here. I have a big hairy gorilla that you asked me to divulge, and I'm just gonna ask you as I formulate that answer. Could you recall how someone that you knew pre-acted their age by writing or by talking about or by taking action well in advance of a real crisis? And
Yeah,
that person could be you.
yeah, no, that was a real easy one. That has I would say both my parents, that was a discussion of what would happen in the course of their life if in fact, and my sister and myself's life, if in fact they died, what would happen to us? How would we as kids handle the crisis? And I was the older of 3 children. My middle sister passed away from childhood leukemia when she was 3 and a half, and I was 7. So my parents faced death, in the immediate family,
Yeah.
at a very early age for the young family. And my youngest sister, who's still alive, thankfully, is, 4 years younger than I am. So she was an infant at the time, and I was the adult. I was the adult child at 5 to 7 or whatever it was at the time, and I always had to learn how to dial 911 on the phone, what would happen if mom couldn't answer the phone. My aunt would come over, and she would pretend that we were in a crisis and what to do. and how to answer the door, how to take care of things if my mom couldn't take care of herself, that kind of thing. So it was good training, and I think part of it may be the generation. Plus, anytime the discussion of, well, you never have to worry about what would happen to you if, in fact, we weren't around. They didn't say the word death, as I remember, but just we weren't around, something happened. But that my sister and I would go to friends, close family friends of theirs that had a dude ranch out west somewhere. And I thought that sounded really cool. I was like, well, can you like just go away on vacation for a little while? Because, riding out in the open range, like, cowgirl thing was pretty attractive. So I don't want
Can
you to
we
die, mom and
rehearse
dad, but
this?
do you think can we just do a dry run on that one, not just like 911 on the plastic phone? And then I always knew where dad always shared with me, who the attorney was, who the accountant was, who the financial advisor was, where all their wills were, their last wishes were, where everything was stored, and kept it very organized, to the point where he had multiple copies of it. So upon his demise, I had lots of stuff, but I always knew where it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, your parents, my mom, definitely there was already this preparation,
Mhm.
in advance. I'm
And I
I'm just
thank
gonna
them for that
yeah.
right now too, right? Because
Yes,
it
yes.
made the course of my life, um, not that we dwelled on it, but
No,
we always knew, I always knew what to do, that I would be in charge. This is what to do. That I could make sure that they continue to trust me and to make the right decisions. And my sister has now made that decision as she gets her will done. She says, well, if we ever need to pull the plug, both my husband and I have been signed you as the designation to do that. I'm not a fan of her husband, so but she said, "Don't pull the plug too quickly on Henry." So I have to laugh, and I was like, "You're sure you want to give me that one?" But
I did say you can
life is
first ones you
funny.
want.
Life is funny. So
Life is. Oh my goodness. I mean, all of this just dives right into the answer. And what I feel from your question, though I could not quote it right this moment, is what's the thing that scares me most? So I have served alongside family caregivers where the loved one is in a private home
Mhm.
and the family comes and goes or they live right there. And they've turned to me, and it scared me so much what they were saying that, and what they were saying was, what's going to happen to me? I mean, I know what this is taking, and I'm privileged to be here. And sometimes I'm exhausted. How's this going to, how's this going to play out in my next third of my life, the third. And so I actually went to a local university. It's just a few minutes from my home. And I sought out a person that I had seen live at an aging summit. And I knew that she was in charge of a really good gerontology department at that university. And I thought, she will have the answer. And so she took out a book and it went thud on her table and it was 600 pages.
Ooh,
And I thought, I am excited about this information and I don't even want to read all that.
yeah.
And it's a reference book, right? It's not a read at night book.
It's like the Merck manual, right?
Right. So my biggest fear is the phrase, what if? Well, what if I didn't get everything prepared for that? And what if I didn't know that scenario ahead of time? So that was 3 years ago. And
Mm.
since then, I was writing down little ideas between shifts, or if the person that I was assisting was just having restful time, I would just write down these things that I heard other people talking about because they also would say, oh, I am so glad, the difference, of what about me? How is this ever gonna, who's gonna take care of me? I've heard that, who's gonna do this for me?
Mm.
And, and then the other side is like, oh, we talked about this ahead of time. We've got this all covered. I am so glad we renovated the bathroom before now. This is so, so much easier than it would have been. You can't believe, this little, and so I hear all of that. So I've just been sketching all of these down. And because it scared me, because I thought there are people like me who are like, what can I expect? I retire, confetti. Um, you get those big things all planned. And then what if something happens that you really weren't prepared for? And that's why I've been putting together Pre-Act Your Age.
Mhm.
So it scared me enough that it made me do a complete change in my life from being a volunteer, a mother, a classroom educator for several years to doing what we're doing right now. So this is part of my pre-acting, and it is working because I have an adult daughter who said, "Oh mom, I just found the best place for you and dad," because she knows we've talked about it. It's normal to talk about,
Yeah.
if you need it. Oh, I've met the people and I know who owns it. It's privately, and all this. And I'm just going, this doesn't bother me at all that she's talking like this because it matches what we've been saying. It also gives me a chance to put in maybe my wishes and make sure that I communicate it, make sure that I document it so that it can be like, page this. Oh, yeah. I thought mom, oh, good. I get to give this situation to my brother
So
and
there's
his,
no questions
you know,
afterwards. Yeah, because
you know,
when you get in the caregiving situation, that sometimes you think, "I remember what they said," but you second guess yourself. Am I making the right decision? And even if it's written down, there are changes in situations where
right.
you still the big decisions for the caregiver, the POA, the person who's in charge of medical directives, those final decisions still weigh heavy on the head and the heart in many
Mhm.
different ways, and sometimes the wallet.
It doesn't hurt to just write down, "Hey, I'm trusting you to make the best decision."
Mhm.
That assurance, that reassurance that will be seen, whether it's on a video and they've been collecting videos of you, saying that. And it's like, my relationship with you, even if I'm not able to express it anymore, just like your parents were saying,
Right. Mhm.
if we're not around, whatever that may look like, to just go, you know what? I trust you. We've had good conversations. Our relationship is secure. Even if I don't remember your name, or even if I've said something today that seems horrifying, know that I love you, or know that I appreciate, if it's a designee, a neutral person, know that I appreciate that you have done your best on these wishes. We're good. And then you have that in your relationship. It's just kind of an offhanded thing that you might,
Mhm.
go to. Hey, this is the perfect time for you to just tell everyone in the audience how you are already blessing people, and be sure to let them know how they can get a hold of you and how they can connect to get into their own hands what you have created. So go right ahead, Nancy May.
Thank you, Christine. Well, I have, created a new company called Caremanity, which is came out of the concept of bringing care and humanity back together again. Not that we don't use our hearts, but we also have to use our heads in that whole process of whatever stage of life we're in, and that goes with caring for somebody who's younger. But I have a Facebook group called Elder Care Success that anybody is welcome to join. The only request I have is that you answer 3 questions, which gives me a better idea privately of who you are and what your issues are, and how I can be a better help and service to you. Those questions don't go out to anybody else. If you do not answer them, you do not get admitted into the group. Simple as that. I do that out of respect for everybody else. I have a podcast called Doing It Best with Elder Care Success, or Elder Care Success. We just recorded our 14th episode today, and that will be out shortly. And then a website, which is how to survive 911 medical, or how to survive 911.com, which is for a book, which my husband and I wrote based on initially the reasons to call 911 for my parents. And yes, the book comes up from out of the dark. That has been heavily researched with medical and emergency responders and trainers of that community from around the country. And it tells you how to deal with a medical emergency before, during, and after, what to do before the emergency happens, how to get the best care in the ER department, how to get better care in the hospital, discharge faster, and even at the very end, what to do in case the 911 system is down because of a natural or man-made disaster, and they do go down. So you need to be able to know what to do if you need to get help from that perspective. So, and then we're in the process of building a website, some courses. Our first course will be on how to understand contracts for care facilities so that you don't get bitten in the butt or the wallet. And there are a lot of tricks and traps that the industry uses that we become unaware of. And some have been known to actually, they call it granny dumping, where they'll send people to the hospital and just all of a sudden not have the room back for them when they come back. For a number of reasons, and then financially asking people to leave because they can't afford it anymore. And I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So that's me. That's what I do. And all my years of experience in the corporate world, working with boards of directors, have trained me very well to be extremely direct with the medical and care professions. And it should work to everybody else's advantage, I hope.
So if audience members are driving, they should come to a gentle stop, not just screech off the road. No problem. All this information is in the show notes, but go ahead and say the ways that they can easily, and you already mentioned some of them, that they can get a hold of you, get a hold of that information, and the book that says 911 emergencies. Go ahead and mention
So
that again.
where they can get the book on Amazon, but they can also go to howtosurvive911.com and download a free file of life, which
Yes.
everybody should have, with instructions on how to use it. It's a fillable PDF, so it will always be available for you to quickly edit as need be. And you can get a hold of me on Facebook, direct message me on Facebook. It's Nancy May over at Elder Care Success. You can, I'm on LinkedIn, although it has my boardroom profile there. It's me, it's moi. And reach out anytime. Direct message is probably the fastest way to reach me.
That's because Nancy May has another cape that she wears in the superhero closet. And that's why she sounds like she's got it so together, because she does. And because that's the way her parents raised her. So they did do good. And we are thankful to our parents the way that they did this. And
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Yeah.
yay! This is just a great time for me to say thank you. And I have already recommended your book. I already sent the link to the free file of life. That is going to be total news to almost everyone. What is file of life? And so you want to look at it, you want to get it, you want to print it out. Mine is here because some of my situation has changed. I need to, so I'm doing a fresh one, and then onto the fridge it will go. It is different than those other documents. It is for living. It is for handling an emergency so much better, and those around you, everybody knows what they need to know. And in brief, my sister works with families who have who are family caregivers of their adult children. And her question was, so is there anything in that book that would relate to this situation? Because this is, intense need, 24/7 care people. And so I'm going to bring it with me when my sister and I converge at Mom's, so that I can show her. And so I know another book will be purchase soon. So it would really make a difference in those families' lives, whether they're new to caregiving because of a recent situation or otherwise. I'm just like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
My
It's
my
good for you and me, sister. Good for you and
yeah,
me.
my parents' elder care attorney just bought 25 to hand out to some of his customers, so I'm pleased with that one. Yeah.
Oh, those lucky
Yeah,
customers.
they're very fortunate.
If it's put in your hand as a gift, you kinda have that accountability thing of thinking, "Well, I really ought to look in this," and it turns out, yeah, you really oughta. So, I am so glad. Nancy May, thank you so much for preacting our ages together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine, it's been a pleasure.
Please visit my guest. You'll find their link in the show notes. I'm glad you listened in on our conversation as we both navigated one aspect of aging at a time on this Pre-Act Your Age podcast. All of the ideas and thoughts expressed on any Pre-Act Your Age podcast are candid conversations and opinions. For medical, financial, or legal advice, consult a professional.